Thank you for joining me in my virtual studio today. Now, if I can give this get together a title, I would like to call it Creating Business Success Within an Unfair World. So, with me, as you can see, today we have got the legendary Lew Geffen in my virtual studio. But before I welcome Lew officially, I just want to give you some background. Now, this is going back a long time ago for some of you. In 1982, Lew and his beautiful wife, Sandy Geffen, started Lew Geffen Estates. And they became very, very successful. And in the next 20 years, they established about 12 branches of Lew Geffen Estates in Johannesburg, and they operated mainly in the old Johannesburg, the Sandton area, in the upper quartile of the mall. But as they say, to be prepared is half the victory. So in the year 2000, they became an affiliate of Sotheby's International Realty. Now, just to understand the magnitude of Lew and Sandy's achievement, I need to show you how big Sotheby's Realty really is international. So today, Lew Geffen Sotheby's International Realty is the biggest standalone office outside the USA. Take into consideration that the brand has over 845 offices worldwide, and it spans over 63 countries. I've got to create my own sound effects here. So about the company, I clicked on the button and I read, the lessons of the past should steer us towards ensuring lasting legacies for generations yet to be born. It is such a lovely quote. And I've got to add to that, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So, ladies and gentlemen, while sipping on your cup of coffee, or if you're in Cape Town, maybe a glass of wine, I want to invite you to just relax as we go back to the 1960s and take you onto this wonderful icon in the arena of real estate's journey up till today. Lew, welcome. And I'm so privileged to have you today chatting to me.
Thank you. Thank you for that amazing build-up. Don't know if I live up to it. Don't see myself as an icon, but hello to you and your audience. And I hope that everybody enjoys our show.
So before we go into that impressive career path, once upon a time, you were a little boy. Give us some insight of where you grew up, how many siblings, and what were you like as a child?
Okay. Well, I've been thinking about it, and my answer is I had a very unstructured upbringing. Okay. If you know anybody's parents that got married and divorced to each other 3 times in the course of 30 years, that was my parents. My mother was an amazing woman, and so was my father. My mother was ambitious. My father was a gambler. And in between all that, I grew up somewhere with, and I'm the only child. So unstructured had many disadvantages, but it had many advantages as well.
So the things that we like give away a lot about us. So I'm going to take you through a few short questions, just so that the people with us in the audience can get to know you a little bit better. So what kind of music do you enjoy?
Well, I am a jazz fanatic. There's no doubt about that. And I like the masters. I like the masters of jazz. That's basically on my playlist, from Ben Webster to Duke Ellington to Ella Fitzgerald to Billie Holiday, all those people, but nothing faster than a heartbeat. I like slow jazz, and that's basically on my playlist. And I listen to it a lot.
So what are your hobbies?
So yeah, my hobbies are I read a lot. I play chess on the odd occasion when I can find an opponent, and I like to listen to music, and I like music very much. Those are my basic hobbies.
And what is your favorite sport to watch and to participate in?
Well, that is most definitely golf. I'm hooked on golf, but I like watching rugby too. And I've done most sports. I love my sport. I mean, whether it was hiking, done many hikes. I've climbed Kilimanjaro. I've done the Otter Trail 25 times. I did about 30 years of hiking continuously. I even got one booked. I've got the Well Trail booked in July. And running, I used to be a runner. I can't run anymore, but I did the Comrades Marathon 3 times. Scuba diving, gym I go to every day. I like to keep fit. So that's basically it.
So do you watch movies, and which type of movies are your
Yes,
favorite?
I'm a movie buff. I love watching movies. The same as my reading. I like documentaries, and I like shows. Well, if I say the best movies that have stayed with me forever, Zorba the Greek and Gone with the Wind. Those are the 2 favorite movies that I love. But if you're talking about TV series, I like series like Breaking Bad. I like Better Call Saul. I like that type of TV show. I also like documentaries. I watch a lot of documentaries. Find them very interesting.
Right. In which type of clothes do you feel comfortable? A suit, a
Well,
golf shirt?
that's a generation thing, because when I was the first 20 years of my business, I always wore a suit and a tie. But that seemed to disappear with the ages, because people stopped wearing suits and ties, and then they just came down to shirts like I'm wearing today. But yeah, so I like to dress casually mostly. I like jeans and shirts and maybe shorts and t-shirts.
So which is your favorite holiday destination?
Well, if it's a summer holiday, I like Mauritius a lot. I like Mozambique as well. If it's a winter holiday, my favorite winter holiday is skiing. I've done many skiing trips with my kids. They're not kids anymore, but we spend a good time skiing with our kids.
Right, so now a little bit more over to the mind. Who was your biggest inspiration through the years in business?
I think Sol Kersner was my biggest inspiration. His absolute vision and his ballsy attitude. I loved both those things about him, but there were others. I mean, I liked him for different things. Donnie Gordon, I felt, was a very astute businessman. I liked Nelson Mandela for his leadership and his humility. And who else was there? Richard Branson, I liked him for his maverickness.
So you and your mother, there is a story there. Your mother was one of the most amazing women in her time. And I, in person, is one of the estate agents that started off in her office in Parktown. There is a story that she started selling properties on a Vespa scooter. So Lew, take us back to those years with your mother.
Yeah. So when we were living in Linksfield, she had already started, I did real estate in 1958 from a little flat in Hillbrow with a Colin Dictor and her mother as her assistant. She started doing well, and I think the first house we ever had was in Linksfield, in Tregoning Street, right near the school. And she had a Vespa scooter. Now, if I tell you that we used to go to movies on a Friday night, the whole family, that's been my mother, my father, my granny, and myself, all on the Vespa scooter. So my mother would drive, my father would be behind her, my granny behind him, and me on the wheel. We got to and fro the movies. The cops weren't so fussy in those days.
So in those early days, Nina Obel, Michelle Gilbert, those two ladies, does it ring a bell from those early offices?
100%. She had an office in Jeppy Street, my mom, and she had most of the people that became doyens of real estate in that office. She had Michelle Gilbert, she had Nina Obel, she had Dawn Dorfman, she had Ellen Dorfman, she had, let me think who else. I think they were the main people. They all went on to make huge successes. And it was odd that you would go to Jeppy Street for your business and then go into the suburbs and come back to the CBD. But that's how it was done in those days.
So then you broke away. Obviously, you worked with your mother for some time and then you broke away. How difficult was that? And how did you overcome the obstacles?
Let me put it this way. You know, being brought up in real estate, I learned a lot subliminally, even though I was resentful that my mother's time was taken up. But a lot of the stuff went through, and she taught me how to negotiate. I've got to say that. So I didn't really want to go into real estate. I did everything but try to get into real estate. But I worked, I think, from the age of 20 in real estate, and I was my own agent, and I sold for my mother. I think my first area was Parkhurst, then Greenside, and then I went to Saxwell after that, and Parkwood. And so I didn't really like it, to be honest. So when I got married, in my first year, I became a hawker of copperware, Iranian copperware and brassware. And how that happened was I went into Leach to buy a tray, because I did go to Israel for the 67 war as a volunteer, and we were hooked on Israel, on the bric-a-brac. So we went into Leach's to buy this tray for our coffee table. I ended up buying the whole shop. What I was going to do with it, I don't know, but we got it delivered in the Pentechnicon. We started polishing and listening to Cat Stevens, and we put it up at Kalani Mall. And within half an hour, Mrs. John, Yango John's wife, drove up in a big Jag and said, "Boys, put those incense burners in my car." So we sold out, and we then were in the business for 1 year. So that's how so that was my year of real enjoyment in business. I loved it, with the Arabic music and everything. Then yeah, we had kids, obviously, and I was actually in the building business. I told my mother I wanted to build a house. I wanted to go into the building. She gave me an opportunity to build a property. I overspent on the property. As a result, I was terminated, but I had all the equipment, and I went into Lew Geffen construction. And that lasted for about, I loved it. I loved construction. And I was a jobber. So that lasted for about 6 years. And then, as per usual, another recession came and I couldn't face it anymore. And I had 3 hungry mouths to feed. So that's when I rejoined my mother again. And so then I learned that I have to find something to like in the business. And like that movie, City Slickers, he said, you only need one thing in life to find. And I found my forte was in marketing. And I had all the agents gathering outside my door doing advert, because I used to do zany off-the-wall adverts. In fact, Jenny Cruz Williams wrote a book once, 10 Best South Africa. And of the 10 best property adverts, mine was 6. So that's what I really love doing, the marketing side of the business. Anyhow, we started franchising just off the cuff, my mother and myself. And I sold the first 12 franchises for in real estate. But we used to knock heads a lot. And what did it for me is we went to the Pretoria franchise. After 2 years, she didn't step into that franchise, and all the praise was given to her. And then I realized that a small tree can't grow underneath a big tree. And that was the decision that Sandy and myself made. At that point, coming back from Pretoria, let's go on our own. That was somewhere around 1982.
So is there anything else that you recall from those early days, about the business itself?
Yes, because when I started my business, I discovered something. It's a mantra I live by, and that's let the free market prevail. And it happened by sheer fluke. One of our agents had a house in Bramley to sell, and there was a misprint. It should have read 60,000, but it read 25,000. And there was a deluge of people that came, and the house was sold for 60,000 Rand. And then I worked out to myself, this is a very clever thing. And then I learned further that it's called parameter advertising. So the brain lets through pay value and suppresses threat. And if you put two prices in, if you put offers between 1.5 and 2 million, the buyer will see 1.5 and the seller will see 2 million. And somewhere in the middle they meet, which is what happens in any case. So I built my business on that philosophy. And all my agents were schooled in that philosophy. And everybody thought I was mad. And people even took me to the estate agents board, but they could not find fault with the actual ethics of it, because that's what auctioneers do. You don't go to an auction where they say, pay 2 million. They start the bidding at 900,000 maybe, and based on that principle, really. So that's what it took out of it.
You told me that. So let's look. Are there any big legends in our industry that you wish to pay tribute to?
Yes, I wish to pay tribute to the women in our industry, starting with my mother, then Pam Golding for sure, and then you, Linda. You're the three people that started your own businesses in real estate and made a total success of it. You with the Fine and Country. And now I'm sure that my daughter Yael will be one of those. She has it. She's got what it takes.
Now, I can just remember years ago, the CRS course, the Basil Elks, the Javits brothers or family, those were big names in the industry. And I was a young agent those days. And we as young agents look up to those legends in the field.
Yeah, well, I knew them all. I was the young Turk in those days compared to them. Now I'm not the young Turk anymore. I'm the old Turk.
You were the new kid on the block those years.
I was the new kid on the block.
So how did the industry change since those early days? What do you miss?
I blame Basil L for introducing the estate agents board because I think that we're over-regulated. I think, this is my thought, that the best agents we ever had were divorced women who needed to feed their kids. Now today that is not happening because of over-regulation. By the time a divorced woman needs to feed their kid today, not in 2 years' time. And to go through that whole rigmarole to be qualified as an agent takes that aspect away. And we are losing those people. Those people are not coming into the industry like they used to come in, because they were the best agents. So I'm utterly opposed to over-regulation, and it's becoming more and more. The only thing that the estate agency board should be there for is to regulate ethics. Nothing else. It's too complicated. There are too many papers to sign, too many things to do. We're not rocket scientists. We're salespeople, and we sold as many properties 60 years ago as we do today. We probably sold more. And I just think that's one of the things that's completely over-regulated. So I'd like to see deregulation, not more regulation.
So if you can turn the clock back, would you change anything that you have done in your business?
Not in my business, maybe in my personal life, but not in my business. My business, I went through I've been through 6 recessions, so I know exactly what you've got to do in a recession, how you've got to operate. But the basic thing I want to say is that this business is a people business. Unless you understand that, you can never make a success. And I was taught a great lesson by my daughter. At some point during one of the recessions about 20 years ago, I think before Sotheby's, 6 of my agents walked out. And the reason was that my admin staff told me that they're killing me with paper, with a price, and I should charge them for reams of paper, which I did do. This irritated them to such an extent. 6 people walked out, and we were devastated. We were on a skiing holiday in one of those cabins, and of course, Sandy and myself were every day complaining, and then yelled to her, "Dad, it's your fault." And it hit me like a thunderbolt. And from that day, I realized that the agents that work for you are your clients. You're not the boss. They are your clients. And if you treat them well, they will have their clients. And that's how you build a business.
So my next question to you is a little bit long, so you've got to hear me out a bit on this one.
Yes.
So,
okay.
how great our lives may be, we are immune against the thunderbolts of our life.
Yeah.
You lived life and you lived it well. But then you lost your son. There is simply nothing as devastating as going through such pain. The world expects us to carry on. And I want to ask you, how did you cope with that?
Well, you just got to cope because you've got so much responsibility on you. And you can't let people down. So there's no question of you not coping. But I think one of the coping tools that's within me is I always keep extremely fit. And I think that's a big help when you're in a situation like that. It helps your mind, it helps your body, it helps everything. But you're right, Linda, it was a terrible thing to go through, and it never goes away. It's still with us today, but it just, the pain gets a little bit less and a little bit less as the years go on. But you still think to yourself, why? And I know that you're in that same position.
I know, and I just want to thank you for sharing that with us. So your family reached great heights and today boast with their own successful careers. So
Absolutely.
you're a very proud dad. Can you comment on their achievements?
Yes, well, I mean, my son Saul, I mean, that was an act of genius in itself, because in fact, it was about 20 years ago as well, when he came up with the idea of mortgage origination. And he came to me, and we were in one of those recessions again. And he came to me and said, "Dad, I've got this idea, mortgage origination." I said, "What? I don't know what that means." And he explained it to me. And funny enough, I got a call from Colin Sachs of Vered shortly after. We weren't mates, but he just phoned me out the blue. He said, "We've got to do something about this recession." I said, "Look, my son's got an idea. Do you want to hear?" So Saul presented to him, and he said, "That's fabulous. I'm bringing in Jarvis." And from Jarvis, it went to Seif, and from Seif, it went to Wakefield. And suddenly we had a team together to form the company called Uber. And he did extremely well out of it. He was the CEO and founder and the shareholder. So that was the one thing. Barack was fantastic in the business. Absolutely. That's the son that I lost. He had people skills unbelievable, and people loved him. And then there's Yael, and she's running the franchise business today. And I hardly give her any input, because she's her own woman and she knows exactly what to do. And I've always said she has perspicacity. She can cut to the chase so quickly, it's unbelievable. She understands exactly what's going on and can fix whatever needs to be fixed. And of course, I've got my Lord Lamaki, who hasn't entered the business world properly yet. She's in Cape Town, and we'll see what happens with her, with the upbringing, and what will emanate.
So I'm going to make a statement about you, and then I'm going to ask you what are your thoughts around that statement. So younger, up and coming people in the industry respect you. What I always liked about you is the fact that you were outspoken in the media, you were tough on the ground, but you also really minded your own business.
Yes, but what do you mean I minded my own business?
You were focused on your business.
Oh, I see what you mean. I didn't get involved in politics.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I learned a long time ago that it doesn't pay to spin doctor or lie to the media. Just tell it like it is. You know, we often underestimate our children, and we want to soften things for them. They can accept things, and so can the public. The public are not idiots. And if you are outspoken, if that's your personality, so be it. I mean, there's many people that were outspoken. Sol Kersner was very outspoken, and many other entrepreneurs. So I think to be outspoken is a good thing.
So in business, there are those tough days. How did you mentally handle yourself when things in your business goes wrong?
Well, I learned something from Gone with the Wind. With Scarlett O'Hara, whenever she was in a tight position, she said, I'll think about it tomorrow.
So in later years, much later, who inspired you, kept you upping the ante?
Once you're in the vortex, I don't think you need inspiring. What happens is the people around you push you to greater heights. And I think the art of business is to employ the best people that you possibly can, let them grow, I don't believe in over managing people. Let them manage themselves, give them the space, give them the opportunity, and they will produce for you. They will be creative in their own right. And all you have to do is give them the space and the opportunity.
So what advice will you give to younger leaders, not estate agents, leaders like managers, owners of companies?
I think any business, it's all about people. As long as you realize that the people that you employ are your family, and that you got to look after them, and that the more you look after them, the more they look after you. It's a very simple philosophy. You have to have a very deep empathy for the people around you.
So what was the weirdest property deal you ever did?
You're going to laugh. So when I was young, 20s, of course, we used to go out on Saturday nights and get drunk and party. And the show days in those days used to start at 10:30, used to break for lunch and used to come back and then until 5 o'clock. So I've got this house in Greenside, Hoylake Road, and it's empty except for one bed in the bedroom. And I've managed the morning slot. That was okay. Came back after lunch and I was finished. I sat on the edge of the bed, and before I knew it, I was deeply asleep. I need to be prodded by a man who said, "Excuse me, sir, I want to buy this house." And that man was Dr. Reverend Bayers Nordia. He was under house arrest, and the only house that he could buy was to slip across the road, because he lived next door, visit my showers. He bought the house, and then I ended up selling his house. So I had a 3-month experience with that great man. That was weird and wonderful.
What a beautiful story. Are there any other funny stories you can share in public?
Yeah, let's just think about that. There was the, one of our agents sold a property in Ethel, to some German buyers, and they phoned from the airport. They were on the run. They were drug dealers. They phoned Danielle and they said, Danny, you got 250,000 rand. Please keep it. We're off. Yeah, that was one. And then there was another one where I was asked to come and accompany an agent in a divorce situation. And when I arrived, I summed up the situation. They weren't quite sure whether to get divorced or not. And the lover, nogal, was of one of the spouses was in the house. It was a threesome. And I saw the situation. So I helped them make the decision that divorce was the answer. And what was funny about it, they were so relieved. They signed the paper. They saw me to my car, and like a happily married couple waving me goodbye and thank you. I'll never forget that one.
There must be another one.
Well, I'm sure there are. The ghost house in Parkhurst. Yeah. So there's an empty house in Parkhurst, and I come there, I meet the owner, and there's a chevron, there's a pot in front of the fireplace. It's got chevron markings on it. Anyhow, I said, listen, this house is so dark, it has to be painted. So I just came out of my construction, so I had a painting team. So I got the painting team to paint everything white. And then I arrived for the show day, and in the morning, about 11 o'clock, I went to the toilet and I hear footsteps. So I thought, oh, there's a client. So I zipped up and went to see the client. No client. 3 times. Then I was wondering, what are these footsteps? Anyhow, one of the neighbors came from across the road and said, have you heard it yet? I said, what? He said, don't you know that this house is haunted? So I immediately phoned one of my agents and said, listen, you'll have to take the afternoon slot, because I knew that this particular agent would frighten the ghosts.
You know, Lew, I know that we can sit around a campfire and talk about these stories. I would love to hear more from you. What is the future in your mind? You know, when we get older, we've got to give people hope. And I want to know from you, what is the future of real estate in your mind in South Africa?
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Listen, I mean, our property is the most inexpensive property in the world. Let's start with that premise. And funny enough, what's happening in the world now. There's a lot of money coming from over. We're seen as an emerging market that's quite good to invest in at the moment. So I think that when we get over our ESCOM and service delivery problems, there's a great future here in this country, but we have to get over those problems. And real estate is a basic commodity, and it will always be a basic commodity. It's a great country to live in. Great. I joke, I say it's the worst country with the best lifestyle. It has got the best lifestyle. And maybe there's things wrong with the country, plenty, but it's still got the best lifestyle.
Absolutely. I do agree with you. So now back to you and your business. How involved are you still in your business?
Okay, so the founder business, Lew Geffen Estates, which is the one I was involved with all this time. I've now retired and sold that business because the day-to-day, it was too much for me at this. I'm 74 now, so it was too much. And I sold it to a younger man who's very capable, and he's only 57 years old, and he will take it to new levels. But basically, that's become a franchise of the big group. So we're all franchised now, and it's one big franchise company with the brand. So my role is I'm still chairman of Geffen International Realty Franchises, and I'm still involved with Uber, the mortgage company. And I'm lucky enough to have a daughter that's fully capable of being the CEO. of that company. And Sandy still does a lot. She's also involved. She has been involved. I must say that I could never have done it without her input and without her backing and without the infrastructure created by her, right from word go to today. She's been very instrumental in the success. And so have the people and all the people that are in the business. Everybody's contributed.
So I just want you, because I introduced you and then I gave a little bit of a background, but how did the story came about, that breakthrough story when Lew Geffen Estate became Sotheby's International Realty?
Yes, it happened by sheer coincidence. So what happened was, when I was a younger agent in Parkhurst, Sandy and myself did show houses. We did one in Parkhurst for June and Ted Askew, and he was a private detective, and she was a very cultured woman. And I remember I was impressed with her, particularly. I mean, as an estate agent, you go to show houses and people don't care whether they give you coffee, tea, or whatever. But she made a point of giving canapes and champagne, and she really looked after us. She had respect for us as an estate agent. But one day she came along and said, "I'm now divorced from Ted, and I'd like a job." So I put her into Parkhurst. Anyhow, about a year later, she came to me and she said, "But Lew, I'm going to resign." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I know I'm not cutting it." I said, "No, you're not resigning. You're part of our family, you're staying." And she left it at that. Anyhow, 2 weeks later, she came to me, she said, "Have you ever thought about Sotheby's?" I said, "The auction house." She says, "No, the real estate." And then she showed me brochures. I looked at it. It was just before December, I went on holiday, and it germinated in my mind. And I came back and why not? And so I gave them a call, and the rest is history. Yeah, we got together. My credentials are okay. We got together as an affiliate. That was the first stage. But then that we did well. I mean, the day we got Sotheby's, the brand took off, and our client base changed overnight. And then when Sandy and myself went to Paris for one of their conventions, which was at the Sotheby's auction house in Paris, I met the CEO of the company, Stuart Siegel, and I understood that I could take the brand further. And I asked him for the country. I said, "I want to franchise my Sotheby's throughout the country." And there was England Focus in Cape Town, and he had to make a call, and he did. He said, "Okay, you're going to get so I got a 10-year initial agreement, and thereafter I changed it to a 30-year agreement. So we've had a great experience with them. I must say that their support has been unbelievable through the years, and their marketing material is phenomenal.
So
Best thing I ever did.
That's wonderful. So what you've just told, we hear so many estate agents saying it's all about me and nothing to do with the brand. Does brand matter?
Yeah, well, does size matter? Brand matters. No, brand matters, because when you've got a brand like Sotheby's, people don't ask, you don't have to explain anything.
Yeah.
It's all explained before you get there. It's a brand. It's a world famous brand. It's since 1744.
So I'm going to read you a quote. "To be what we are and to become what we are capable of becoming is the only end of life." And Lew, your story is what I've heard today. That quote reminds me of everything, your upstart, from upstart to contender, how you really took on your path with your wife, Sandy, beside you. And it's such a lovely story that you've shared with us today. And I think our audience can really, really see that, people are so much looking for that, that magic little ingredient that's going to make them successful. But listening to you today, I cannot come to any other conclusion that the winner is within us. The winner is within. So to our audience, I want to thank them for attending today. And I've no doubt that the life journey of my friend and colleague here in the studio, you will learn something from that. Now, before we end, I want to give you another quote, but I am going to ask one last question to Lew. And this is, Lew, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, I'd like to be remembered as a fair-minded, free-thinking person who brought a famous brand to South Africa. As simple as that, and nothing more.
Have you got a quote for us that you like?
Yes, there's something I came across some time ago. I mean, it's a well-known quote. It's from Shakespeare, and it applies to. I think that the world is for the brave, not for the clever. If you're brave, you do succeed in life, and nothing demonstrates it more than this quote: that there's a tide in the affairs of men when taken at the flood leads to fortune. Admit it, all your life's journey will be bound in shallows and miseries. So, on such a full sea, we are now afloat and must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures. That's the quote that I live by.
That's beautiful. So I'm going to read my quote that reminds me a little bit of you. And that is from General George Patton. And he once said about war, the object of war is not to die for your country, but to make the other bastard die for his. Now, Lew, thank you so much.
Thank you, and you're an icon yourself, and thank you, and thank your audience for listening, and I hope they enjoyed it.
We have recorded this for you, and I will send it over as a souvenir for you,
Thank
and
you
that
so
your
much.
children
Yes,
and your family can
much
look
appreciated.
at
Thank you
it
so
years and years thereafter. But I'm going to let you make one promise to me. There's this guy, Ben Fogel in the wilds, and I don't know
Yes.
how many of the audience are looking at that. And he goes back like every 5 years. Then he sort of go and look what happened to these people. So, Lew, I want you to make a promise to us that in 5 years' time, we'll meet again and we, touch base what happened in the last 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, give a big hand to my friend, and thank you for Sandy. I must mention Sandy. She kept me on my toes all the years in the real estate. Lew and Sandy.
Me too. Okay. Thank you, Linda. Goodbye to your audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you for attending today. Hopefully you've got enough time to drink a little bit of wine. And if you want to contact either myself or Lew, you're absolutely welcome. Our numbers are all over the place. And should you want to be on this real estate show, you can contact me. Thank you. Thank you, Lew.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.